I'm not telling you something you don't already know. It has been unbelievably hot, and there's been not a lot of rain to cool things off, so our air conditioners have been working overtime. What happens, though, if you're a renter and it stops working and your landlord is not going to fix it? Well, he will eventually, it seems. Our attorney, Dale Appel, here with us. Good to see you again.
Good morning, Russell.
Just a little bit of time left. It's 9:15, about 15 more minutes. Our Ask a Lawyer group will be here. And thank you all, as always, for doing this. Free advice. So there it is. All right, let's get to it. Are landlords required to fix, in this case, a broken AC?
It depends on the lease. So you first have to go back to your lease and see what the lease says about things like air conditioning. Sometimes the lease will say it's the tenant's responsibility.
Really?
Sometimes it'll say it's the landlord's responsibility. Sometimes it'll be in between. It might say that the AC up to $100 in repairs is the tenant's responsibility. We'll take the rest. So you really have to look first at the lease to see who's responsible for keeping the air conditioning repaired. If the lease doesn't address the issue, then it's the landlord's responsibility. Because when you went into the lease, you made a contract. You give me this apartment, this rental, and I'm going to give you my rent each month. Well, if they're not providing a working air conditioning, they're not providing what you contracted for.
So let's work with that for a second then.
Yes.
So you've got a broken AC, and the landlord should fix it and is not. What's your recourse?
So one, I would document that. I would, if you have the email, great, because email is a great way to store and be able to show this this email later on. You might send a certified letter to prove that you sent this letter. So you want to document that you're telling the landlord, I've got this problem, and then tell them it's not being fixed. That way you'll have the evidence necessary if it ever goes in front of a judge to prove, you know, I'm not being unreasonable here. I'm trying to get the landlord to do the right thing, which according to the lease is to fix the air conditioning, and they're not. So that's why we're in front of you today.
I would imagine, though, a last resort with this would have to go to court and have to go before a judge. I mean, you're getting into a situation where it's going to cost you some money to get a lawyer?
Well, great question. Two things. One is you can fix it yourself and then go to small claims court, pay a filing fee, and say to the judge, he didn't give me what I bargained for. A technician came out. I had to give him a couple $100 to repair the air conditioning. This is what was wrong with it. So you could do that. But some people say, I don't want to go that route because I don't want to spend the money. And I don't want to spend the money on fixing it. I don't have the money to file in small claims. It's enough to make the rent. The other alternative, again, you want to be able to prove with evidence that you tried to get it repaired, that there is a problem with the air conditioning, is come the next month, you cannot pay the rent. It's something you have to be careful about. They're going to go through an eviction process, and in the paperwork of the eviction, it will say that if you have an argument about why you didn't pay the rent, you just take that rent money and you give it to the court. Then you'll have your day in court without spending anything. You go in front of the judge will say, well, I see you deposited the rent money in the court registry, so it's not like you're trying to avoid rent. What's the problem? And then you explain with the emails, with the letters, with the technician perhaps who came out and said, the AC is not working. It's going to cost $300 to repair, that you did everything you could to get the landlord to do the right thing. At that point, the judge will say to the landlord, you got to give him a working AC. That's what he rented from you. And so the judge then will intervene and make this happen. You didn't spend any money, but you've got to document, and you've got to be reasonable in the process, and you've got to be prepared to take that rent and put it into the court registry. Otherwise, you lose. When you're evicted.
And I think we should probably stress that again. Not paying your rent, at least you're paying it to something. You're putting it in the court registry, right?
Yes. Do not say, oh, I used that money to fix the AC, and only give a portion of the rent. Or, no, you have to take that rent money and give it to the court. Because, again, the court's going to assume that you're not paying rent because you don't have the money. You need to prove, and it's in the paperwork you get on the eviction, that you have the money for the rent. Then you can talk about why, whether it be an air conditioning's not working or flooding or some other issue. But again, you need to be able to prove to the court that the landlord was not doing what he's supposed to do under the lease in order to be able to move forward. But the judge then can intervene. But it's a good way to solve a problem if you have to. But it's a last resort. I would definitely document and try to get the landlord to do the right thing, or put in writing why it's not the right thing, so that you can have an understanding about maybe you're wrong about the lease. Maybe you don't have the legal rights you thought you did. But get it in writing if you can. Certainly send in writing so you have evidence.
Nice. Thank you.
You are welcome, Russell.